Number two, test the tanda. Ye tanda dido arigi immigration gi tanda document processing da on the zola giwachim teber on the gi nimdun ji den lu sha kon seta chi gyo jro on the engine seta chi do on the lu sha ro ani kejam ni do ni de la nge gi de title ga ti sha ro ani main there is a green card process chi da taga tanje immigration gi dimang boy ro khasa form damanda yoro I-765 laado da di susu gi color application gi joja lawar da susu gi situation ra le ro oni nge tanda de kejumro tons da de yuwa de lamsa ta ro ani immigration gi processing time de pet kora nyung du tang ro khang gyo de che gi seta thön sha ro 아니 온디 님동도 zero 아니 단다게 파이 블로그 subscribe che면 subscribe 인지면지 지로지 아주 딱 칼로리 research 해다 된서 되서 마무도도 research 오래 비디오 된서 edit 오래 되서 마무도도 아니 미말 팽기 님도로 try 지가 답시 지가 라소 아니 온디 zero 아니 펜바이나 파츠다 저 페바 아리라 이제 신경 망보여라 된서 파츠 대화체로 아니 더더더더들 메인기 단다 디지로 소소기 애플리케이션 나 캐바드로 유멘디 탁탁 코란도 USCIS 기 웹사이트 코란도로 그런기 폼레 애플리케이션 컨퍼메이션 넘버죠 텔라 따체 아니 따야로 라서 온다나이 온디 계정으로 통해서 온디 전에 쉐어신도 다시들래 아니 데 단다 엔지톤에 세다데 찬으로 라스트 랑에 conclusion 된도 게 마랑기 개정부 인견도 토픽도 게 되게 돈 대시 영어라 아니 라스트 년도도 담아봐도 싫어나
Our application within 6 months and issue adjudicate within 6 months a decision after the application is being received by USCIS. And this is in alignment with USCIS new goals per the chart which you can see below. So we expect that there will be some great news for community in future where they can expect green card in 6 months from the date of application, and which will be a huge change from today's 10 to 15. USCIS should also review requests for work permits, travel documents, and temporary status extension within 3 months and adjudicate decision. Today it takes several months. USC has developed its own implementation plan, hiring new resources and officers which are needed. I understand hiring 200 to 500 more new officers, and cost estimates, secure budget, and implement suggested internal processing times by 2023. We have another recommendation in our long-term recommendation, which will be coming in next one of the next meeting, is the removing the country cap limit and merge everybody together, and that is what your point will be addressed then. But that recommendation will be bringing maybe in our next few commissions. While we are working on this recommendation, in our pipeline is a recommendation on H-1B visa, which is basically to get this. Today, if you have to get stamping on your visa, for H-1B visa, you have to go to your own country to get the stamping done. But our pipeline is that we want the stamping to be done in the US only, so that right now, if your parent is suffering from COVID, is in ICU, and you only have left 30 days of stamping, you don't want to go to the country because you will have to wait for 8 to 9 months to get a appointment at the embassy. So our recommendation, which we will be working in future, is to get the stamping done in US only. I wanted to bring it up so that we can collaborate in future.
Committee is Immigration and Citizenship Status Subcommittee, and our co-chairs are Grace and Kaying.
Yes, and I don't know where
And Grace, I'm going to let you go ahead and get started.
All right, thank you, everybody. The U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services, about giving us an overview of the current situation relating to backlogs in the processing of immigration benefits. And we also had a presentation from Judy Stuft of the State Department who's the Deputy Assistant Secretary for Visa Services in Consular Processing, who gave us an overview of, what's happening with the reopening of consulates and addressing the family visa backlog. On our USCIS list is talking about processing immigrant visas up to the limits that exist in law and recapturing unused visas, because what's happening is the agencies that process these cases are not using them up to their full capacity, and a lot of visas are lost every year. We also want to talk about the State Department backlogs, improving processing times. We want to talk about immigration courts and addressing the backlogs there, and access to counsel, and in particular for the most vulnerable populations, and language access in that context.
We're talking about improving family-based visa processing cycle times to reduce the backlog. Green card backlog for family-based immigrants have grown steadily for last 30 years, making lawful immigration and reunification difficult, if not impossible, for millions of families and keeping them separated for decades. U.S. citizens and green card holders applying today to sponsor a family member abroad expect to wait decades. I'm waiting for my brother for almost 15 years now. Before their families can reunite in the United States. Nearly 4 million people are currently waiting abroad in the family-based immigration backlog, and out of this, large percentage of this belongs to our community. Many family-based immigration avenues have been significantly backlogged for decades, delaying family reunification, presenting serious barriers for individuals attempting to immigrate through authorized immigration venues. And but this, the 4 million data which is backlogged today, and 65% of family-based annual immigration makes about 65% of annual lawful immigration. So COVID-related shutdowns, limited staffing, full or partial closures of embassies and consulates abroad had an inherited impact of Trump travel bans. All these factors contributed to increased processing times, posing difficulties to process number of green cards. If you look at the numbers, only 65,452 family preference green cards were issued in 2021 out of annual 226,000 green cards available, leaving hundreds of thousands of green cards unused and wasted, keeping many more families separated. There were 421,358 pending interviews in April compared to 436,700 in March this year. So our recommendation is to reduce, use agencies pending family-based green card backlog. It is recommended USCIS should review their processes, systems, policies, and establish new internal cycle time goals for streamlining process, removing redundant steps, automating any manual approvals, improving their internal dashboards and reporting system, and enhancing policies to reduce the cycle time for processing all forms and documents related to green card application, DACA renewals, and all other green card application within 6 months, and adjudicate within 6 months a decision after the application is being received by USCIS. And this is in alignment with the USCIS new goals per the chart which you can see below. So we expect that there will be some great news for community in future, where they can expect green card in 6 months from the date of application, and which will be a huge change from today's 10 to 15 years of backlog. USCIS should also review requests for work permits, travel documents, and temporary status extension within 3 months and adjudicate decision. Today it takes several months. USCIS develop its own implementation plan, hiring new resources and officers which are needed. I understand hiring 200 to 500 more new officers, and cost estimates, secure budget, and implement suggested internal processing times by 2023. It is recommended USCIS share the backlog for processing by using skilled officers, employees from other agencies, and share the backlog for processing by employees from other agencies by hiring temps and contractors as allowed by the law, and increase the officers force by 200 to 250 to reduce the backlog. Also, USCIS worked in close conjunction with the State Department to issue complete the process for green card. So it is recommended that the National Visa Center, State Department's facility, hire additional officers to increase their capacity to process green card application interviews by 100% in 3 months from August 2022, and by increasing green card application visa interviews and adjudicated decision by 150% from current capacity of 32,439 in April 2022. By April 2023, and reduce the current backlog, by 2023, and then thereafter green card interviews and visa processing timeline should be maximum of 6 months. Thank you. This was my first recommendation. One is new measures for reducing the current immigration backlog. The immigration backlog has surged from 5.7 million applications at the end of 2019 to about 9.5 million in February 2022, and the State Department wait for in-person consular interviews or for immigration visa rose to a high of 532,000 last July, and an average of 60,900 numbers adding on average a month. The backlog can trap individuals into limbo for months of years with enormous implications for their families. Simple, a person going for an H1 renewal or things, their driver license can be taken out or their lives are impacted. A person waiting for an EAD approval loses the job, or the families, employers, U.S. immigration system suffers with this whole backlog process. So given the delays in approving work authorization documents, many immigrants living in the United States have been locked out of or forced to leave the job and even the country and face immense hardships. So our recommendation is that reduce the wait times. It is recommended USCIS establish new internal cycle time goals to be achieved by September 2023. And some of these, as you can see in the chart, is getting 6 months, some of the application forms and premium processing to be done in 2 weeks, and in 3 months I-765. So one of our recommendation was to automatically extend the EAD card, and which have went into live by USCIS 2 weeks back. It will be automatically renewed for 540 days. So it's a great relief for the community, and thank you USCIS for doing that. Increase staff and hire more officers. Again, in the USCIS recommendation is to hire more officers, and also educate to get temporary work programs as H1B and H2A visa renewals, extensions within 2 months. It's recommended to request work permits, travel documents, etc. within 3 months, and then DACA renewals and green card request for family members within 6 months. Also, one of the things is that there are a lot of students who have been waiting with their parents for green card application, and they age out. And then they fall out of status. So they call themselves as DALCA, D-A-L-C-A, but that's not an accurate term. But we also want USCIS to look for them as a special case and find a way for their citizenship path. I will stop here.
Third recommendation that we had spoke to a specific issue that USCIS is currently working on. Many of you may be familiar with the public charge rule and what happened during the last administration, that it's a longstanding rule, and it speaks to whether or not somebody can be admitted to the United States. And if somebody's found that they're likely to become a public charge, that can be a basis for denial of their application to become a permanent resident or to be admitted. And so during the last administration, there was a lot of activity to try to expand the definition of public charge. And what ultimately happened was there's been a huge decline in the willingness of many of our AA and PI, as well as other communities, in being willing to access public benefits and healthcare benefits, etc.
Did bring in subject matter expert from USCIS, and please chime in. But so the couple of things in last 2-3 years, COVID-related issues with the staffing, and a lot of had a reduction. A lot of policies which the last administration did, this administration is in the process of undoing and getting through those. And all those have and reduced and all those have added to the backlog. There is also the way the current processes are and the systems are, so that combines. So that is why we have recommended that review your policies, your systems, your processes, remove redundant approval steps, automate your manual steps to workflows, and all those things which will streamline this process and increase this. In addition to that, hire approximately 200 to 500 more officers. In the current budget, which I understand the agency has a increased budget to hire more officers, so that's where we're looking at.
Thank
I
you.
thought I just want to jump in. Yeah. I think both RJ. Hello. Both RJ and Grace had mentioned it earlier. I think it's an accumulation of a lot of cases from the last administration that create a lot of backlog. That's number one. Number two, automation is not there, and also the lack of manpower. These are the three key areas. That is from our finding. If this thing had, will not take immediate action, it will be continue to kind of change effect going forward. Thank you.
Yeah, that's the lay. I think la na shin dan da nge the khasa. Deshe durdush jaw samsra khare khare kyo the be me ra. Ta ma je the main the dirsha khasa konzo gi la na. 이제 processing time 지라 뒤져주라 남긴 뒤져 얘기 장도 어디 통도 당하려셔 아니 당고도 들으셔 green card apply 치나로 apply 치외 니마 되네 치니로 아니 다와 tuk나라 간자면 이제 탁주 치서 지도 다 yes no 라줘로 라기 요 라기 메 라줘로 아니 additional document provide 치고 유면다 된대요 간자면 이제 green card 디 다와 tuk나라 탁주 치서 지도로 아니 셴바 단다 temporary document 이로 된저 visa 도다 EAD 란데레 employment authorization card 라이다 온디체 근데 야 AP 라이도 AP 라 딘서 단다 카사 카르라 당이 full form the temperatures 예 단다 도도 들으셔 단다 카사 가시 단다 immigration 정안을 하게 되는다 된저 가지 processing time 된저 참아 the visa ani employment ki card ti chero ani di khasa AP la de khanjam je kharla tange advance payroll visa I maro che sonde khanjam je 정안을 하게 되는다 콘조 processing che 된저 다왔음 나 차 지기도 아니 단다 믹스 기 단다 디오라 family visa la ne family immigration yoro 된저 슐하 되어로 거기 단다 디 가서 스피커 디 코코랑기 주주 immigrant 첼 로주 가서 정하르지 구대라서 온데저 간자면제 콘조에 들으셔 전다 독도면데 즉 apply 채널 하 되도 오늘 메워처럼 다 간자면제 디 process 체 yes no 라데 그랑기 situation 라레로 document 카르테 예메 그랑기 situation 지가 야면나 파 롱보 파주데 템하토베 기 situation 다 간자면제 탁주 제조라 프로세스 지역이 뒤져줘라 온데 디체스 강 교교서여셔라 아니 다다디도 가서 건조 immigration US Department of Immigration 여라 건조기 라가 지게도 officer 된다 망보페 디체스 하야 제셔라 아니 디갈라 단다 건조 디도 룽바 셴바니 출레기 비자스도 된줄에 the processing time 디라 강 교교 수여셔 갈라나니만니 processing time 데 교체 안디갈라 비자 타칼로레 section 라네 룽바 데스로 number 도 스테이션이스로 아니 number 테체 아니 갸다 자가이나 자갈 미자타기 비자 토타 유나로 콘조에 압주스톰 바지 표주마당 제로 오늘 좀 간자면지 갸테 땅에기 촉쟁이나 갸땅 투베기 탑시로 지에서로 아니 딩엔라서 temporary documents 는 상마데라 가자 다왔음 믹스 travel document 다 visa 다 passport 수에도 다 된저 상마 다왔음 나서도 저도 아니 가서 딘저기 주어든저와 주어든 람산람산 땅에서 진 어떤다 니도 니작숨네 딘저 상마 데르다 주어 땅사다 니도 니작숨기 다와 구원한다 on din ro ane dinne thanda dilaj do ya country cap laj do ko zo de she on ge ta kyora nga de ari li ro nyegi ta nyegi amado che pinjaro ta ngarangi immediate family den ro dende lungba nyegi ngarangi nyegi lungba ta jagaro yim bas jagala nagi yonro thanda ena digju kharla na tab nga dene pha dre ne mo nyegi amatsu le ne ramde denu sangma dichu pagela jagala doche dichu do de mewa che ta de ari korang la su tuye ki tapshi chido karana ari korang la chena lela yoro gyowa tsai yoro jagala dichu na jagada lungba shaman chena dao gusto korgisar on denzo mewa su yor turwa ani tanda dilo HB1 visa la sto tidang mendire lega visa do ta lega visa ngaro ena jagane lega chale HB1 visa le ro lega chin chiwor dangade the next month la zogyu na minde tanda gi digzul kharla na jagalpa lo page jaga gi embassy euro US embassy on the process che ode daw gus kor ge do on the chim go che ta tanda ga la che HP1 visa le no ro de la ari koram la renew che gi this kanjan facilitator to share ro ane dine de tanda Dhaka la jido Dhaka la dire ye ari la dire lobdu den do lobjon chegale an de la tuzu mangbo dena de khonzo de la khaza immigrant gyuregi toptan do jo ondun zo ge na khal ta tengsa ta den zo da nga shira ha me ro ine ondun zo gi processing da de zo thang ya ta jo ane dingye ni khaza family immigration la so on the page line some family immigration thanda na dao gusto gorgda dao gusto on the do khang gyo ta ya shwa on the dang ni dordi ro pegen deshe gyana sam shwa la so an da ra yen pay vlog subscribe chen subscribe inji minji chiro che peace out dai dale